Welcome back, everybody, to the Simp Station Internet Football Podcast. This is totally our second recording and not the third. There is not a mystery episode out in the ether, I promise. This week, I'm joined, as always, by my constant co-host, Wyatt. How you doing, bucko?
I'm doing pretty good. I am almost not sick anymore, so I might cough, but I'll try to mute my mic. Sorry to your ears.
And we have one of our 2-0 teams here, the cousin to, I don't know, beat all cousins. Then that kind of sounds weird. Like, it's Banegulwud.
Wait a minute.
That's right, Banegulwud, 2-0. So we're here on the podcast now.
Yeah, let's fucking go. Fantasy's been fun these first 2 weeks, man. Like 8 or 10. No, it's 8. 8 1-1 teams is always a blast. You never like to see people stomping through the league.
True.
Bangelwood's kind of stomping through the league, but no one else is really.
Never want to start 0-2. If you're 0-2 right now, just kill yourself.
Oh my god.
Actually, Spencer's kind of stomping too. To give him some credit when he listens and bitches that.
Hey, he barely beat me.
It was the highest scoring team of the week.
All right, fine.
And you were third. Yes, that'll do it.
Rip. Pain.
And luckily, no one's done. We're not in too bad of situations. I think I looked earlier and teams started 0-2 and still made the semifinals. I'm pretty sure. So we're chilling. Even if the first 2 weeks haven't gone well for you, it's okay. We're gonna just go over what happened a little bit, just kind of chat some shit. I don't know, see what we want to talk about. Wing it. So what stood out to you, Bangelwood, from week 1?
For me, week 1, obviously, my team had another high-scoring week. Started out 2-0. Had another major injury to one of my running backs, but the season goes on. Besides that, I was interested to see if B-Way went 2-0, to see if Dalton got a win this week, the 2 auto draft teams. So I was watching them pretty close. And have a lot of studs and duds for the week, too.
Yeah, if as we talk about them, feel free to go through them. I think B-Way's team is one of the more fascinating storylines of this year so far. He's 7th in scoring, I think, 7th or 8th. Pretty good so far for the team that Alec and I pretty much predicted to be absolute dog shit.
He scared me to death after Thursday Night Football when his 2 receivers combined for 40. I was like, it's over. It's Jover.
It's Jover. The Cam Akers trade definitely helped him. Or not Cam Akers. What's his fucking name? Dalvin Cook trade definitely helped him week 1. Did not help him week 2. Actually, it hurt him week 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I just think that's going to be one of the more fun things to follow. Obviously, our last ranked teams last year did really well. And so maybe we just kind of gave BYU the kiss of life.
Yeah, we have a great track record with power rankings.
It's so fucking bad. I put Bangelwood 7th and he's just curb stomping the league.
I put Bangelwood as first,
to be
second.
Fair, you were exactly right about J.K. Dobbins getting hurt week 1 after scoring 1 TD. And the reason I picked him up was because I had Nick Chubb, the Iron Man. And
I looked at my notes, and it was literally running back depth and then 2 injuries were my questions. And we're really going to see running back depth get tested for you coming up here.
Hey, you had a good waiver pickup in Zach Moss, though. He should be good. So
yeah,
that'll help.
Fired up about Zach Moss. I just need Reeves to get out of my DMs trying to trade me Garrett Wilson. And I'm like, I'm getting back. I don't need fucking Garrett Wilson.
He's been in a lot of DMs. Except Wyatt's probably, because I know he does not want T. Higgins.
Hey, T. Higgins popped off this week. What the fuck? Why are you throwing shade?
You know why I'm throwing shade.
Speaking of T. Higgins, he popped off. One of my big duds of the week was Jamar Chase. We were at Chili's watching the games and just waiting on Jamar Chase to do something for Becca, and it just never happened.
T took everything. And
it's in both these weeks, too. We're last week T did nothing. This week Jamar does nothing. You really got to hope that they actually start playing.
Yeah, week 1, the Bengals' entire offense did nothing. So at least this week, T did a little bit of something. So
Yep.
maybe next week Jamar will finally show up.
They'll get right. That's the argument for the 0-2 teams in the fantasy league right now. All the Bengals fans are coping, being like, "We're 0-2 last year and in the AFC Championship." So.
True.
Yeah, I think both of our 0-2 teams I actually kind of like. I mean, Dalton's team has a lot of talent on the it just got to all put it together at once. He had like 225-point performances in the week 1, and then kind of choked. And then this week he was like losing Aaron Jones, and there's just issues.
And I really like Becca's team. I mean, Rashad White's a running back I really was going after, and she picked him in the round right ahead of me when I was looking at him. I mean, I obviously love Jalen Waddle, so she still has a lot of upside.
Yeah, this is definitely feels very even. Any other storylines from week 1 we wanted to hit on? I mean, Brett,
we had the shit bowl between the two podcast co-hosts. That was a close game, but it was the worst game.
Yeah, that was the worst game by far. 10th and 11th in scoring.
Josh Allen tried very hard to get me to lose, but thankfully I did not.
Yeah. And Eckler got hurt, which somehow didn't fuck me this week, but we'll see how that goes for the rest of the season.
Yeah, after having a crazy game against Miami.
I think after week 1, I mean, I was really high on Brett's team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Tyreek kind of often carried him through.
Went crazy. And then this week, he didn't do it as much.
Yeah. This week, I mean, Brett's team kind of fell apart.
That's another dud is just Jets running backs in general. Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook for B-Way. Just tough.
Yeah, they're pretty horrendous. I mean, I don't know what you do as like a Jets running back when it's like, why would they defend the pass?
Yeah, and it was the Cowboys defense who just looks unstoppable this year so far.
Yeah, and it's like literally, I don't know, you just double Garrett Wilson and then go one-on-one with everyone else, and everyone else just focuses the running backs. I feel like that team is so fucking doomed.
Yeah, and still speaking on Brett's team, Justin Fields is a guy, I mean, I drafted in another league, and I was really high on this year, and he's just not performing. So, I mean, I can't blame him for the pick, but it's just a kind of like, well, I'm glad you took him ahead of me. So, I'm glad.
Yeah, I think remembering back to our power rankings, he was definitely... I know Wyatt and I have been hammering the Bears under all fucking year, but I still thought Fields was going to be decent in fantasy just because they were going to be coming from behind so much.
And because he was supposed to have a high rushing floor, and they just aren't letting him run.
Yeah, it's
trying to show that he's a pocket passer, and it's like, dude, just do what you're good at.
He cannot be a pocket passer. Dude doesn't know how to fucking throw accurately past 2 yards.
Yeah, like if he wants to be a pocket passer, he can go to the XFL. I mean, I'm sure he can do it there. But, yeah, And then Brett has Jordan Love as well, who I feel like is kind of terrible, but kind of did well in fantasy this year. I mean, he had like
kind of terrible. His 2 games, he's popped off.
Yeah, he has 150 yards.
3 tutties, though?
Week 1, he had a bunch of yards.
Yeah, week 1 was decent. Or, no, week 1 was generally really good.
Yeah, but he was also against the Bears defense in week 1.
Right, and I watched the Atlanta game, and, like, they had a chance to go out and win the game when he actually had to play, and he missed, like, 3 straight throws. Just missed.
Yeah. I don't know if he's terrible, but...
Yeah, I think better than expected for his start. I mean, there's for the first 2 games of the season, coming in after being on the bench for so long, but there's room for improvement, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance that the Bears have just played 2 tough defenses. I don't know. Green Bay looks solid. Tampa Bay looks decent. I don't know.
Dude, somebody who's looked way better than expected, Baker Mayfield. He's surprised me.
Isn't this what he does every year, though, that he starts?
Yeah,
first
that's
6
true.
games, he balls out and then just, falls apart. So we'll wait and see what happens with that.
I mean, they play the Eagles this week on Monday Night Football, if I remember correctly, and I'm like, I feel like almost positive he's almost going to win the game. They're going to lose barely, but he's going to make some crazy drive at the end of the game, try and win the game, and then people will be like, oh yeah, Baker's back, and then the next week he's going to come out and go 10 of 26 with 3 picks,
The Baker
And-
special.
Yeah, but he's always been good when you put like good players around him, and there's still a shitload of talent on that Bucks team.
Yeah, I feel like he's a guy that gets players going too. Like even if he's playing bad, he's going to be fired up.
And I was listening to a podcast today, and they said maybe Mike Evans likes this because Baker plays more like Johnny Manziel than Tom Brady ever did, and Brady and Mike Evans they did well, but there's a lot of times where they just missed on things. And Mike Evans maybe he likes just that Baker will chuck it up sometimes and just
Yeah,
be like,
True.
fuck it.
Mike Evans is going to get his.
Yeah,
Dude, he's
I
a
think
beast.
that's looking like one of the better value picks this whole league. It was Mike Evans. I mean, it's like 7th round or some crazy number.
Yeah, I think that's right. Hey, Baker's a free agent if anyone wants to pick him up. Get him while he's hot.
Hey, here's a crazy question. Would you rather have Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson on your team?
Fantasy or real life?
Both.
Give me Baker. I'm still so happy that the Dolphins, all the Deshaun Watson rumors with Miami, and it's just looking back on that now, it's like, thank God we didn't pay that guy $300 million.
He's so bad.
I think fantasy, it's probably Deshaun still, but real life, it's Baker, especially when you consider Baker makes $8.5 million on his current contract, and Deshaun Watson makes $220 million, I think.
Yeah.
Baker, you can get on the wire, though. Baker's cheap.
Exactly. You ain't lying. I think in real life, I'd rather have Baker and then just try to get a quarterback somewhere else. Maybe get Kirk Cousins to come join your team next year.
Ooh. Sensitive.
Yeah, it really is. I guess let's move on to week 2. I mean, week 1 is kind of in the books, but week 2 was pretty exciting. There were some close matchups towards the end, especially because there were 2 Monday night games. There's a lot of players left to go. I guess for me, Reeves getting a dub is big because I predicted him to be second in the league. Even without Garrett Wilson being like a monster, 15 points is still pretty solid, although only on 2 catches. TJ Hawkinson had a big game. I think Reeves getting a win makes me feel good about my own predictions.
He needed that win too. He was dooming hard after week 1. And, I'm happy for my guy Reeves.
I will say, during draft season, I wasn't super down on Bijan, but I was also I don't know, he might be getting picked a little high, but through 2 games, this dude looks like the best or the second best running back in the league. He looks insanely good.
It's fucking crazy. He's so good.
I mean, I think you're going to start seeing a trend of rookie running backs going higher and higher too, just because the team, that's the way the teams are valuing him too. It's like, if you got a rookie, run him. Just run him 20 carries a game. He's a rookie. He can take it. And then
I'll say the first week he only had 10 carries. And everyone's like, oh, they're doing this like Tyler Algier, Bijan, kind of like Wombo. I think Algier still had a decent week if I remember correctly, but Bijan was definitely the guy.
yeah, he did it all: runs, receptions, tutty.
Yeah, he's like almost 100 receiving yards on the year too, which is super nice. I mean, Bijan's looking like a stud. Obviously, with running backs, health is always a question.
Oh yeah.
I guess on the other side of that would be Jahmyr Gibbs, who I feel like when I've watched him, he's been better than his fantasy stats look.
They're just not giving him very much work.
Yep. Week 1 against the Chiefs got nothing.
I think now that, David Montgomery got hurt, they are going to be kind of forced to give him more work. I don't know if they'll give him all the work. I think they have Craig Reynolds or something as their backup, but I think he'll definitely get more work now.
Good old Craig Reynolds. That always inspires confidence.
He looks fast too. So, I expect him to, pick up some steam a little bit.
He does have 11 targets in 2 games, which is pretty good for a receiving back. You can't complain there, but it does kind of feel like he's never going to get red zone work. So what's his ceiling if he's never going to get those easy touchdowns?
Yeah.
I guess let's talk about Spencer I feel like that's probably we're legally obligated, especially because one of us put him 12th in the power rankings.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, okay. Well, first off, the Tyler Lockett trade helped him so much, and that was after the episode was recorded. So,
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
just going to put that little caveat there. But also, to me, the big standout was Keenan Allen. I did not expect him to be good this year. I thought they were going to try and phase him out for Quinton Johnston. Or Johnson? Is it Johnson or Johnson? I don't know.
Johnston.
Yeah. And he's been a target machine this year. Almost 20 targets already.
He's kind of that guy. He's not going to drop the ball. He's reliable for Justin Herbert. I mean, he's got that big target in Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen's kind of the guy running the short routes, and you know he's always going to catch the ball. So as long as he stays healthy, I mean, he's solid.
Yeah, I think. God, and Spencer still has Cooper Kupp looming.
Yeah, and he has a solid trio of running backs in Ramondre, James Conner, and Tony Pollard. Like that's, I mean, as long as he doesn't get any injuries, because
Kamara is on the bench too.
Yeah, he's got Kamara coming off suspension in 2 weeks, so I mean,
boy,
his team looks good.
Yeah, I mean, his issues at tight end haven't hurt him so far. He does like Dawson Knox did score this week, so maybe that's actually playable. But yeah, not looking like my best.
I just realized he has 3 tight ends on his roster. What
I
the
know.
fuck?
I was looking at that too.
And an empty bench spot.
I think he's just waiting for one of the tight ends to actually do something before he cuts
pull
one.
away from the pack. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Higbee, who he got in the trade with B-Way, has been. He was okay in week 1, but they have so many receivers on that team. I don't think Higbee's ever really going to get much action.
No, I definitely thought he would with the Cooper Kupp injury, just because he's been there for a while, and I mean, he probably has some kind of rapport with Matt Stafford, but it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I probably already lost. I feel like I already lost the power rankings for our competition just because of that, which is very unfortunate. But you know what?
Well,
it happens. James Conner, I guess, like, there's like, what else are they gonna do besides give it to him? And maybe I feel like I kind of discounted that.
He's a guy who I always stay away from in drafts and always regret it. Like James Conner, every year I'm like, nah, I'm not drafting James Conner. But then he always has great games, and he's just still done his thing.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess another storyline for us this week would be Beans picking up a win. I think it's kind of like Reeves talking about, where like they really needed it after a slow start week 1. But she's gonna be dealing with Saquon Barkley's injury, which is kind of huge for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
I believe Beans and Reeves actually play next week as well, which is really scary for her if she doesn't have one of her.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, she doesn't have her best player currently, or her highest draft pick at least, but not her best player. But
Beans had one of my studs of the week, Raheem Mostert. Obviously popped off against the Patriots, had a huge touchdown run, and I think he ran 2 actually.
He had two touchdowns. Yeah,
yep.
120 yards. He went crazy.
Absolute stud. Speed. So that was a good pickup by Beans.
It's pretty crazy too, because like I feel like New England didn't let the Eagles go crazy on the ground, and then Mostert is just destroyed them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And shout out to Wyatt real quick. I was kind of hating on the A-Chain pick, but A-Chain was active for the first time that game against the Patriots.
He got 1 carry and 1 catch. Let's go.
He had a 5-yard carry that got called back by too, but
tragic.
Yeah, it's the long con. Okay, he's scaling for late game.
Hey, maybe, especially if they use especially Mostert's injury history obviously always has to come up when you talk about him.
Their backup's already hurt too, Ahmed.
Oh, man, Solomon Ahmed, what are you going to do? But I think Beans also had one of the biggest duds of the week in Trevor Lawrence. Really disappointing game after him. I'll say it. I mean, I didn't watch the fucking game. I watched the highlights, and I'm just like, oh, okay, it's our whole offense just fell out of sync in the second half. And
to be fair, he was inches away from 3 touchdowns So it could have been a lot better, but yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, that's kind of what the NFL is, though, right? A game of inches. Sometimes
Yep.
it just comes down to who's perfect like that.
And I think everyone thought that game was going to be an over angle, and it was definitely an under. I mean, did not
Mm-hmm.
expect Jags to score 9 points and Chiefs to be only held to 17. So
Yeah, Jags defense played way better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, you can't force 3 turnovers. That was also one of like 6 games in Mahomes' career they've scored less than 17 points. And that's just, it's like, you can't
can't
get
lose
3
that.
turnovers
Yeah.
and lose that. Yeah. Oh, God, it's so annoying. Their defense, I think, is going to be, they're going to have another year of like a top fantasy defense.
who
Last year
has
they were
Jags?
like 6 or 8. I think Reeves.
Okay.
I think he's carrying 2 defenses. Yeah, he is. And he played the Giants defense against Arizona over the Jags defense.
-1.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they're going to end up as like a top 10 fantasy defense again, just because they force a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, I could see it. They have a lot of playmakers on that team. So
Mike Caldwell schemes him up nice, it seems like.
Yeah, I think they're probably better in fantasy than they are in real life, but at least they had a good game today. I guess. Oh, Biz also got a win. It helps when Joe Burrow doesn't have 3 points. That's probably pretty nice for her.
yeah.
And Debo showed up. And Derrick Henry showed up. I mean, she got a lot of her guys going.
Yeah. Although talking about Joe Burrow, it looks like he might be out the next week or two with his calf re-aggravation.
They do have all the way till Monday to decide.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really bad if so.
It's always good when you get 10 points from your tight end too. Darren Waller. I mean, that's solid. That's pretty much what you want from your tight end.
He looked pretty bad week 1, so it's a nice change to have him pop up. I was super down on Darren Waller the whole year, so I will fully, it's good to see him at least do a little something.
Yeah, the only reason I was kind of higher on him than consensus was because he's the only target on that team. Like, they don't have receivers.
Yeah.
So as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to get targets, and he's shown that he can be good enough to get good stat lines with the work. So
And Daniel Jones did kind of have a comeback week, so see if he can continue it.
yeah, he had like a full game of stats in the second half because they didn't do shit in the first half.
Nothing. I saw something they got outscored 60-0 in the first six quarters of the season.
Yep.
Tough.
Yeah, I think that Biz Becca game also, the bench players could be really indicative of like some future pop-offs. I mean, Kyron Williams looks really good for the Rams. So much better than Cam Akers has all year. I think Kyron is probably going to end up being a starter, like a flex starter. Becca has a lot of, she has an open flex spot really. But then also Marvin Mims for the Broncos, I thought he only had 2 catches, but Russell Wilson literally just spent the second half of that game chucking the ball deep, and that's kind of what Marvin Mims is good at. So he could be one of those guys, sort of like Gabe Davis, who's also on Biz's bench, where they just randomly like go off.
Yeah. 2 catches is all he needed.
It's just with that kind of player, it's just tough because you got to kind of play them through their down weeks where they get you like 1 point to be able to get that spike week of 20 plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real chance if they lose this week in Miami that Russell Wilson's gonna get benched. So
really,
because in week 4 they're against the Bears. They paid Jared Stidham. He's a top 5 paid backup. You don't do that for nothing, I feel like.
Right.
Especially with the new head coach coming in. He picked out his guy. They signed him on day 1 of free agency to a top backup spot. That's not normal. That's like that's more than what people did with like Chase Daniel. So I think there's a part of Sean Payton that's like, fuck this old fucker. Let me get my guy in there.
I feel like the game next week is going to be close too. So if they lose it, against the Dolphins. It'll be another heartbreaker.
Yeah. And did y'all watch the ending of that Commanders Broncos game?
Dude, that shit was wild.
It was so crazy.
And that, I mean, let's be honest here. That should have been DPI on the 2-point conversion. That was some bullshit.
That's something we got to talk about is how inconsistent the PI calls are, because I've seen it in both Miami games this year, and we were watching all the 1:00 games on Sunday.
Yeah.
It was just like a guy touching someone's waist is PI, but then holding people's arms while you're jumping up in the air is not. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, it happens every year where refs are just super inconsistent and changes every week what is a penalty and what isn't a penalty, and it's frustrating, but
it's literally anything affects. Like they change based on who the receiver is that's getting. The bigger the receiver, the less likely they are to call PI, even if it's the exact same thing. Like I feel like Mike Evans gets no calls because he's fucking he's a skyscraper human being.
they'll call PI on like balls that aren't even catchable. It's like,
yeah, and then like it's a shorter guy, and they're like, oh, that totally he could have caught that if he jumped 6 feet in the air. Like, yeah, that's PI. But I think it's just part of sports in general, right? Like,
yeah.
The NBA has been super fucking bad about it too. Just the refs are so bad. And
I also think it's kind of like the older you get, the more you become like super just hardened and like annoyed with that type of stuff. Like when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, why is there a penalty? And now it's kind of like these refs are just freaking renobs.
Trash.
Well, it's also like we grew up. I think we're like the big generation that grew up playing Madden, where all the penalties are super obvious, and they add like an animation and everything. And then you get to real life, and it's like they're moving at fucking 20 miles an hour, and you're trying to watch 3 guys at once, and some guy puts his hand on someone's waist, and it's like, okay, how did that affect the play? And the guy has to make an instant decision. It's a lot. We give him a lot of shit, but it's a hard fucking job.
It is a very hard job, and nobody ever likes you, no matter what. So.
Oh yeah, no, you're hated all the time. Huh? I mean, that's all the big storylines I had from this week.
I will say, getting a little selfish here, talking about my team real quick. My 2 later round running backs that I expected to be decent, Alexander Mattison and Miles Sanders, have been, especially Alexander Mattison, has been a massive disappointment. And I really hope he can turn it around because, I mean, they played Philly and Tampa, who both have pretty good run defenses, I think. So maybe he can turn it around, but it's not looking great for him, and I don't like it.
Yeah, no, all those death threats. It's been a bad week for NFL.
Oh, jeez, dude.
It's been a bad week for NFL fans. I have to say something real quick. I want to apologize on behalf of all Dolphins Nation. A Dolphins fan killed a Patriots fan at the New England game.
Jesus,
are you serious?
Monday night? Yes, yeah.
What the fuck?
But that's an easy dub. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the running backs, skipping over the fucked up fact that a fan killed another fan. I think Miles Sanders is actually gonna be good. He gets a shitload of carries, right?
Yeah, he does.
On the other hand, I don't think Alexander Mattison is very good at being a good running back. I don't think he's a very good player.
The Vikings have been playing from behind so much too, though. They've been having at the beginning of the game they turn the ball over 3 times, and then somehow they're still in the game because Kirk Cousins is throwing it like 40 times a game.
400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
They can figure out how to get just back on track and just with like a stable offense, he might improve.
And I think he's only lost 1 fumble, but he's had multiple fumbles already this season. That's been that's the big reason the Vikings are behind. So yeah, they can't fucking hold on to the ball, and Madison's such a big part of that. Where it's like,
true,
like Bill Belichick would have benched your ass and sent you to the Shadow Realm.
That's right.
By now, but the Vikings don't have anyone else, so he's going to keep playing, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, from what we saw last night in Carolina, they kind of need to rely on that running game too. Is talking about Miles Sanders because Bryce Young just looked like he was running for his life out there, and he's definitely having those rookie struggles right now. So
they're going to bad offensive line.
Yeah,
which hurts Sanders and Bryce Young. It's bad. Um,
It seems like they kind of have 3 number 2 receivers. They don't even really have a number 1, kind of with like Adam Thielen, Chark, and Chenault.
hey, Adam Thielen popped off yesterday, and I think he's going to keep doing it. That's why I drafted him.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I think Wyatt, your team is in pretty good shape. You're like 5th in league in scoring or something.
Yeah,
CMC is still looking good.
he's a beast.
There's some depth questions.
CMC, side note, he played 100% of the snaps, by the
Yeah,
way.
Elijah Mitchell has not got a single carry yet.
What?
They were like,
100%?
at the beginning, yeah, at the beginning of the season, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to try to manage Christian McCaffrey's load this season. He literally played 100% of snaps yesterday.
Yeah, they actually meant his fucking load,
Or
like
2 days ago.
bust one. Yeah, that's insane. I don't like. What do you even say about that? That's fucking crazy.
Well, when they're not running McCaffrey, it's either Ayuk or Debo. So
That team's so loaded. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's nasty. And their defense is nasty.
The Rams kept up with them for a bit.
Dude, the Rams are better than people
they're
expected.
way better than
People
I.
forgot about Matt Stafford.
I guess
Who's
we
a
got to
beast.
talk about Puka Nacua, right? I mean, he has
Dude.
35 targets and 25 catches in his first 2 games for
He had
270
20 targets,
yards.
He had 20 targets on Sunday. Like, what is that?
It's insane. I just this dude. He's a 5th round pick, came out of nowhere. He's better in the NFL than he was in college.
Yep.
That shouldn't happen. But I guess here's another example of it happening. Reeves got a great wire pickup because some people, including myself, did not use the waiver wire last week.
You got to think even when Cooper Kupp comes back, that'll just open things up more for him. I mean, he'll get less targets, but he'll be running wide open probably.
I think he's clearly asserted himself as like the number 2, even when Cooper Kupp comes back, right? Like, I think Tutu Atwell is going to be the one that gets hurt the most by it. But even then, their best looks, like, they don't have talent. They have 1 running back and 1 tight end, right? Their best talent, their best look is like 11 personnel. So those guys are going to be on the field all the time. And yeah, I mean,
And Matt
What
Stafford's
a
good.
name too. Can we just talk about the name?
That name is great.
What a name.
Puka Nacua. I think I made a joke in our mystery recording that doesn't actually exist. If you remember from High School Musical 2, there's that song that where like Sharpay kidnaps Troy and like makes him like act in this island play, and it's like Uka Uka Noopa Noop Aqua or some shit, and I'm just like, yeah, just throw his name in there and it'll work at any point.
Sounds exactly the same.
I need Chris Collinsworth to say that on the next.
Oh man, Puka Nacua, this guy, he's just a gamer. God, I don't need any.
The GOAT.
He annoys the fuck out of me nowadays.
The GOAT.
If you listen to that lateral play the Patriots had, if you listen to the background, like Mike Tirico's calling it, and you just hear Chris in the background going like, oh. It's so fucking funny. It's hilarious. I'll try to find a clip and post it in Discord because it's so funny.
Him and Mike Tirico do all right, though. It's way better than Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit just calls so many football games that he just has to generalize everything. Like, he's just like, oh, yeah. Like, he can't even really comment on, like, the specifics of each offense just because he calls so many games in a week. It's just like, he doesn't really know what to say.
Yeah, half the time he just, like, mentions, like, where someone went to college. It's like, dude, this guy's a 6-year NFL pro. I don't think where he went to college really matters that much anymore.
We were
literally
doing
like it's like if Ag Mills was a caster who only talks about college.
Reeves suggested on Thursday night, he's like, drinks every time Kirk Herbstreit mentions the player's college.
When it's like the rookies or even the 2nd-year guys, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But it's like, dude, this dude's on his 3rd NFL contract. And we're talking about where he went to school for 3 years. And Al's old. Al's got to call it. I'm sorry. He's just...
That dude sounds just dead every time he talks.
I just think he's too old to, like, build that chemistry with a new guy.
Well, and like, what was it, in the Jags-Chargers playoff game? If you listen to the
Him
ending...
and Tony Dungy.
God, it was like a retirement home, dude.
They're
It was just like
sitting here talking like this. Yeah, and the kick is up and it's good. There's a flag on the ground. It was like, bro.
and like I like Tony Dungy a little, like with someone. If you put him with someone who like can bring up the energy level, but Al Michaels is not the man to do that.
That's a
Can we
true.
get Gus Johnson back in the NFL, please?
True.
Please.
That's a hype man right there.
I will say Buck and Aikman have been awesome this year. Like always. They're just so
fine.
good.
I have my gripes with Aikman, but it's okay.
You just think he doesn't like the Dolphins.
He never knows a single player on the team. He'll just be like number 31, and it's Mostert, who's been in the league for like 10 fucking years. Like, dude,
This
the
fucking
roster
guy.
sheet should be right in front of you.
Also, I want to point out Alex is wearing a Bulls shirt from like 2007, and that's fucking lit. That's all I have. Yeah,
That's
that
right.
shirt's probably older than Riley.
Big win against Trinity on Friday.
Love that. Yeah, we haven't lost. Bulls hasn't lost a game in the first 2 weeks since like the 70s. I learned that this week.
Mandarin beat him this year already.
This year?
Yep, by like 2 points. Very close.
Maybe it was they hadn't started 0-2 in the first 2 weeks since the 70s. I don't remember. Whatever. Anyone have any like rants they want to go on? Any tangents since we're completely non-focused here?
I've got two things.
Okay, let's
So
slay.
the first is I'm calling Biz out right now because I didn't talk any crap to her week 1 when I dominated her fantasy team. And then she comes with these stats talking about how I shouldn't have been second place first year in the fantasy league.
Holy shit.
Absolutely
Oh my
disrespectful.
god, the beef.
Absolutely disrespectful.
Holy fuck. We need a new rivalry, honestly. Let's start it up. Every time Biz makes a stat that shows a stat that doesn't favor you, just everyone become Biz's rival.
I'm calling you out, Biz. That wasn't right.
In her defense, it was just that if we used current rules, you wouldn't have been.
That's
Which
fine.
we didn't use current rules back then. So,
It's fair.
but
Just
yeah.
had to say my piece on that.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
What's your second thing?
I want to talk about quarterback kneeling. QB kneels. So there's been a couple games this year where it's not even a big deal, but I want to talk to the commish specifically about this because every time a quarterback kneels, it's minus 0.2 points. And it's just kind of like a big bummer. And I mean, we haven't really had games close enough this year for that to really decide anything. But if you end up having a drive where your quarterback kneels 3 times, you almost lose a whole point or half a point.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So I want to propose something on the table, and the Discord can chime in on this too if they listen to the podcast. Maybe we take away – I mean, I don't know if you even could because it just counts as negative rushing yards. But if we can figure out a way to get quarterback kneels not to count in fantasy, I think it would make the league a better place.
So you texted me this earlier, which is why I was like, oh, open the floor. Because, one, I mean, if we did fix it, I would have to manually adjust the scores. Which, if people wanted it, I would do it. I get it. A little wonky.
All hail commish.
All hell commish. But also I started thinking on like a sort of tangent, but kind of along the same lines. Like one, you know those kneel plays where they grab it and they want to stall the clock because they realize the defense isn't trying, so they kind of like run backwards. Like, does that count as a knee still, or is that like, is he like fucking around? And then I started thinking, you know how in college when they get sacked, it counts for negative rushing yards?
Yep.
I always thought that was stupid because like Tom Brady's not trying to run the ball when he gets sacked. But then I'm like, wait, Justin Fields probably is trying to run the ball when he gets sacked. So like, should sacks count for negative rushing yards in some or all cases?
Oh. Do
I don't think
quarterbacks
so.
already – I mean, on the stat line, it already shows how many times they've gotten sacked if you look on there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But, like,
does it
And it's negative passing yards in the NFL.
Yeah, it's negative passing yards. But again, like sometimes you can't tell the difference between like when when Justin Fields is scrambling out of the pocket for like what could have been a 5-yard sack becomes a 2-yard sack. Is that actually a negative 2-yard run because he's clearly trying to run the ball forward? There's this whole existential debate. You have and then you have to treat quarterbacks differently, right? Like, does an immobile quarterback? It's like, well, he's obviously not trying to run.
I think I would prefer it to be negative rushing yards than passing yards, just because it kind of makes more sense. Because I mean, if the ball never comes out of their hands and they just fall to the ground, it's like, why would you count it as like -2 passing? But I mean, also, I don't know.
It's just, you texted me this earlier, and that's just the tangents my brain started going on. So I was like, I'm just gonna fucking let it loose.
Yeah, those negative rushing yards in college too for a sack always mess up my NCAA 14 dynasty stats. Like I hate it. Like I have my quarterback will be like 100 yards rushing and then get sacked twice, and it's like his yards per carry just goes down.
Or like when there's the game against Utah, like the Gators averaged like 0.6 yards per rush. But then you look and it's like, oh, Graham Mertz has negative 28 rushing yards. It's like, no, he just got sacked like 6 times. Like, does that actually hurt our running? Like, does that make our running backs look bad now? Like, I don't know.
It makes the box score look terrible.
Yeah. It's like, it makes the box score look terrible.
Performance, you're like, how did he lose in 30 yards?
He lost 30 yards on 3 carries and he doesn't run? What's going on? All right. I think we'll move on to our week 3 preview. I'm going to turn my light on so my shadow isn't haunting me in the background.
Wait, I like your shadow.
Okay. That's a little suspect. But, it's still there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Banegulwud, what is the matchup you're looking at most in week 3?
Wyatt, you go first. I need to pull
Fair.
All right. I think probably the best matchup is Beans versus Reeves. I mean, it's 3rd place versus 4th place. They both were highly ranked in the power rankings, I think. I mean, obviously Beans was number 1 and Reeves I had low, but Travis had him high. Beans, like Travis said earlier, has Saquon out for a couple weeks, so we'll see if she tries to make any waiver wire moves to shore that up. But I think it's going to be a super close match. She has Mostert in replacing Saquon right now, and then putting in Addison for the first time in the flex. And he's been good through 2 weeks. He's gotten a touchdown in both weeks. Reeves is playing Puka for the first time because I don't think he played him last week, even though he popped off. So could be good there. And then the rest of his team is, I mean, pretty solid if Christian Watson plays.
Yeah, and I mean, Reeves always is an intriguing matchup in my eyes just because he literally drafted every single upside player ever in the draft. So I'm always keeping an eye on his team, being like, how did they do? And he's basically the rookie team in this league. He's got, 4 rookies? 3?
Yeah. I think to me, one interesting matchup that doesn't look great on the scoreboard is B-Way versus Biz. Just because I really want to see if B-Way's team is for real. Quarterback's been a struggle for him because obviously he fucking drafted Daniel Jones. He's starting Brock Purdy, who had his first no-touchdown game of his career. Actually, it's his first game without at least 2 touchdowns since his first 2 starts, I think. So we got to see, one, can he come back against a pretty terrible Giants defense on Thursday? He has good matchups, but he is playing Joshua Kelly against the Vikings. There's just a lot of question marks, and because we ranked BYU so badly, I really want to see if BYU's team is legit. And then on the other side, Biz currently doesn't have a backup quarterback, even though Joe Burrow's not projected to play, or we don't know if he's going to play or not.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and have to see how Biz rebounds off of a pretty tough situation. I mean, it's not an easy matchup from what we've seen so far, and without your starting quarterback, it could be rough. But I think that one's going to show us a lot for the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's got Debo and Darren Waller playing on Thursday, so we'll have a she'll have a good little baseline of what her team's gonna be doing this week early. But yeah, that quarterback situation might get a little rough.
To agree, it's one of the most intriguing matchups. Mine would have to be Brett and Spencer, though, because those are two of the teams that came coming in like after the draft. I was like, these are probably going to be top teams in the league, just based off how they look. And I'm trying to get their matchup pulled up right now. But on Spencer's side, Keenan Allen might have another big game. I'm interested to see what that. Stevenson, I cannot think of his first name for some reason right now.
Ramondre.
Ramondre Stevenson had a tough game against the Dolphins, which was surprising to me. So he could bounce back. I mean, he did score, but it was probably not what you expected after that first week against the Chargers where the Dolphins just got cut up. And also just that Alvin Kamara is coming back after this week, I believe, because he got that 3-week suspension. So just to see if Spencer can pick up one more win before that happens. And then the next week he's getting Cooper Kupp back, hopefully. So just be interesting to see what he can do before his roster even gets more beefed up. And I mean, with Brett was one of my favorite teams just because he drafted Tyreek Hill. And I mean, the Tyreek Hill Calvin Ridley combo, I just think is really nice also. And shout out to a guy who I picked up late in the year last year, Nico Collins, who everyone said was trash, but he's actually balling out with the Texans right now. So I think this is an intriguing matchup with two teams that will probably be in it for the long haul this year.
Yeah, Nico Collins has been popping off the first 2 weeks, which has been really surprising to me. He's showing he's definitely the wide receiver one on that team, and CJ Stroud's been better than I thought he would be.
Mm-hmm.
It also looks like Brett's going to be starting Jordan Love over Justin Fields this week. So that's an interesting little wrinkle in the matchup, too.
Who the Bears got?
The Bears are playing the
playing
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Oh, they're going to be behind the whole game. It's again, this seems like if Justin Fields is going to score in fantasy, this seems like the time to do it. Right? I mean, the Chiefs defense hasn't been bad, but like they were solid against the Jags, but nothing crazy. They were pretty decent against the Lions, but like this just seems like if Justin Fields is going to do something, even if they don't win the game, if you're a good fantasy player, you should outscore Jordan Love playing against a tough New Orleans defense.
Yep,
agreed.
But yeah, I do think this matchup's super interesting just because Spencer has some tough matchups on the board. I think Deshaun Watson against Tennessee. Tennessee's defense has been pretty solid. And then Ramondre against the Jets. James Conner against Dallas. Those are pretty rough.
Yeah, those are tough.
Yeah. So I think if Spencer can pull off a win here, kind of like what Banegulwud was saying, before his guys come back, it's just absolutely fucking huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brett drafted Josh Jacobs, and he has not performed well the first 2 weeks. He's gotten a lot of work, but, I mean, last week he rushed for negative yardage. So he could bounce back. The Pittsburgh defense is pretty tough, especially that D-line, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like the Raiders' offensive line has not been very good. Jimmy G's taken some big hits too this year. And I think that's a big part of it.
They hopped out early 7 and took a 7-0 lead against the Bills on Sunday, and I was hyped up, but just didn't last. Just didn't.
Yeah. Then Josh Allen was like, nah, sit down.
Yeah. All right. Now, it has been requested that we officially pick each game college game day style. I'm going to try and get that going on the pod for now. So I'm just going to go through the matchups. You two give me your pick. Just one blurb. Done. So we'll start with Spencer versus Brett, the one we were just talking about. Banegulwud?
I'm going Brett. I'm expecting Tyreek to have a big bounce back game this week, or that might be copium, but I hope he is. And, Calvin Ridley probably will too against Houston. It's going to pop off. Breece Hall against New England, like, come on. I mean, the Dolphins ran all over them. The Jets probably can too.
Wyatt, how about that matchup?
I think I'm going to go Brett as well. I mean, Tyreek's got a tough matchup, but he's Tyreek. Calvin Ridley should get back to his catching a lot of balls ways against a terrible Houston defense. So I think he's got a lot better matchups. Spencer's got a couple tough ones, so I'm going Brett.
Yeah, I'm going to go Brett as well. Continue my trend of being a Spencer hater, and now Spencer will show us all up by blowing Brett out of the fucking water. All right, next we have Biz versus B-Way, Banegulwud. Who you got?
Give me B-Way, just because I'm a little salty at Biz right now, and I'm rooting for B-Way a little
The
bit.
salt pick, we love
Hey,
that.
respect.
Rooting for B-Way a little bit. So
Sometimes you got to pick with your heart.
Exactly. So B-Way.
What?
I think I'm gonna go with Biz, even though the QB situation's a little up in the air, especially if Joe Burrow plays. I think Biz will take it. But either way, I'm going Biz.
I'm going to go B-Way. I really like some of his matchups, and the quarterback question on Biz is just too much for me to pick her right now. If he plays, I could totally see her taking the dub, though. All right, next we have Beans versus Reeves, one of the other matches of the week. Banegulwud.
This is a tough matchup. I'm gonna go with my guy Reeves. I think maybe Jamar Gibbs finally has a game that we're like a big game. Bijan's obviously going to be nice, and those two are actually playing each other. Maybe Garrett Wilson bounces back against New England. Give me Reeves.
What?
I think T-Law's going to have a huge week against Houston, so I'm going to go Beans. And Jordan Addison has been showing out, so he could be a difference maker. Give me Beans.
Fuck. I think I'm gonna go Reeves for now. I think this is the toughest one for me to pick. I'm gonna go Reeves just because I kind of agree with Banegulwud. I think Reeves' two rookie running backs could have a fucking field day against each other. Neither of those defenses are very good. I think Reeves can pop off. All right, we have Banegulwud versus Dalton. Banegulwud? Let me take a guess who you're picking.
So, as you know, I'm kind of doing a zero running back strat now after two very tough weeks in a row with as far as running back injuries go. But I'm still going to go with myself. My receivers have really been what's been carrying me these last 2 weeks, and I'm going to take them again. So I'm obviously going to pick Banegulwud.
How about you, Wyatt?
I think I'm going to go with Banegulwud as well. I mean, Dalton has Deion Jackson in his starting lineup, so I mean he could bring Aaron Jones back in if Aaron Jones plays this week, and if he did, it'll be a close matchup. But I'm gonna go with Banegulwud.
So I think if Aaron Jones plays, I think I'm picking Dalton. I really like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's stack against Arizona. The San Francisco defense against the Giants. Stephon Diggs against Washington. We saw Russell Wilson just deep bomb it over and over. Why can't Stephon Diggs do the same thing? So if Aaron Jones plays, I'm going to take Dalton. If not, give me Banegulwud. But I'll make my official pick as Dalton. Next on the board, we have Wyatt versus Becca. Banegulwud, what you got?
Give me Wyatt. Give me Wyatt. I mean, the fantasy god. He's always in the playoffs. You know, he's going to find a way to get some wins here. And I think he kind of didn't have exactly the start that he would like to have, but I see a bounce back incoming.
Wyatt?
I'm gonna have to go with Wyatt. I think
Bold choice.
that's all I got.
Okay. I am taking Becca. Same reasons I think I took Dalton. I really like some of the matchups. Patrick Mahomes versus a terrible Chicago defense. Kyron Williams against Cincinnati, I think is going to be really good. I think the Philadelphia defense could pop off if Baker comes back to earth.
Hey, Waddle might not play.
Yeah. Waddle may not play, and if Burrow doesn't play, that could hurt Jamar Chase. And Kenneth Walker against Carolina seems really free, too. I mean, I think I just really like her matchups. Fuck. Oh God.
For the record, Waddle's progressing well in the protocol so far.
But Wyatt has. I'm gonna take Becca to make it different. I have no fucking clue because Christian McCaffrey could have 30 points at halftime. I have no idea.
True. The Giants.
All right. Finally, we have me versus Steele. Banegulwud, I'll leave that to you.
Hold on. Stalling. Big stall alert. Lamar Jackson hasn't really had that boom or bust game, like that boom game yet, and I think it could come versus Indianapolis, even though they do have a strong defensive line. I do like Travis Kelce against Chicago too, so give me Steele. The Palantines got to stick together.
Respectable. Wyatt?
Unfortunately, I think I'm also going with Steele, assuming all of his questionables, which he has a lot of, assuming they all play. But I actually don't think David Montgomery is supposed to play. But he does have DeAndre Swift to swap up in there and get somebody else in the flex. I'm going to go with Steele. I think he's got the better overall team right now. Maybe if Eckler jumps in and plays this week against Minnesota, that's a really good matchup. That could swing the matchup a little bit, but for now I'm going Steele.
The questionables on his team are crazy, just for the record.
Yeah.
I'm going to go myself. Who would have guessed? I don't think Montgomery's playing. I'm really down on ETN this year, and I think there's a chance they hold or limit Brandon Ayuk since they have an easy opponent on Thursday. Rough turnaround. Lamar may just get injured again. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I really do like Travis Kelce this week. DeAndre Swift also has a tough matchup. So I'm going to pick myself because I am legally obligated to.
Are you considering Adam Thielen over DJ Moore?
I have considered it.
Okay.
There's been okay. But I will say DJ Moore actually had a decent week this week.
Just
over 100. He broke 100 yards, 6 catches. So I may give him a little more time. I think if Anthony Richardson is out, Michael Pittman may come out of the lineup, but I don't know.
I will say you also have the running back 2 on the year on your bench.
Yeah, that is also true. It's probably Brian Robinson over Javonte Williams as well. So I haven't really made lineup changes yet. But that's going to do it for the podcast. We got under an hour. Well done, gentlemen, since people bitch when it's long.
True.
But
fuck them.
Thank you guys for joining us. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, just let us know. You can DM if you want to keep it on the down low. Banegulwud actually had representatives do it for him.
Yeah, I really didn't even have to ask.
Yeah, well, you had like 3 people ask for you. So that works. But,
just made sense, especially after Nick Chubb last night, too.
Pain.
For sure. Pain. So yeah, we'll call it here. Don't kill fans of other teams. That seems like a pretty good takeaway.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Peace, everybody.